The war was over. At least that's what the galaxy believed. The Dominion of Varak, a vast empire spanning hundreds of star systems, had shattered Earth's defenses in a brutal campaign. Humanity had fought like demons, but in the end, their fleets burned, their colonies were silenced, and their homeworld lay in ruins. The final broadcast from the Terran High Command had been brief, but its hopelessness echoed across the void. "This is Admiral Grayson of the Sol Defense Fleet. Earth has fallen. We failed. If there are any survivors out there, forgive us." That had been 3 months ago. Now Earth belonged to the Varak. The once thriving world had been reduced to a subdued, occupied husk. Patrols of reptilian Varak soldiers roamed the broken cities, their crimson armor glinting under an unfamiliar sky. Human survivors were rounded up and processed into labor camps, their spirits crushed, their hope extinguished. Across the solar system, the remnants of humanity's once mighty fleets drifted in silence, burnt-out wrecks circling dead space. The Dominion had left them there as a warning to any race foolish enough to resist their rule. No one expected a fight anymore. No one expected revenge. But then, the warship arrived. It came out of nowhere, an impossibly massive vessel, slipping into real space at the edge of the system. It was black as the void, its surface scarred from battles long past, its engines burning with an unnatural glow. It wasn't on any known registry, not in Dominion records, nor in the Terran fleet's final logs. The ship shouldn't have existed. And yet there it was, a lone human warship standing against an empire. And it was very, very angry. The Varak Dominion's occupation fleet detected the anomaly immediately. Inside the bridge of the Harbinger of Dominion, a massive command ship stationed in Earth's orbit, Fleet Commander Jorvas narrowed his slitted yellow eyes at the readings flashing across his displays. An unidentified vessel had entered the Sol system. "Impossible," he muttered. "No human warships remain. Their fleet was annihilated." His second-in-command, a hulking Varak enforcer clad in ceremonial crimson armor, growled. "A sensor ghost, perhaps? A wreck drifting back into real space?" Jorvas bared his fangs in irritation. "Number it's transmitting a Terran military code, an old one, but valid." He tapped a claw against the control panel, enhancing the image. The ship was massive, larger than anything the Terrans had deployed in the war. Its hull was a patchwork of battle scars and heavy plating, covered in blackened scorch marks and plasma burns. The vessel's engines pulsed with a deep, menacing glow, and along its surface, old Terran insignias flickered in and out of view, their paint long worn away. Most disturbing of all, the ship's name suddenly registered on their system, TNS Revenant. A ripple of unease spread through the command bridge. "The Revenant," one of the officers whispered. "That ship was—" "Destroyed," Jorvas finished, his throat tightening. 30 years ago. It had been one of humanity's black projects, a prototype dreadnought rumored to be the most advanced warship ever conceived. It had vanished before the war even began, lost in some classified deep space mission. And yet, here it was, alive. And it was moving straight toward them. Across the system. On the occupied surface of Earth, deep within the ruins of old New York, a group of surviving resistance fighters huddled around a stolen Dominion comms device. The leader, a weathered man named Cole Mathis, leaned forward as static crackled through the speakers. Then a voice, a human voice, boomed through every occupied comm frequency in perfect, unbroken standard Terran. "This is Captain Darius Kane of the Terran Navy, commanding officer of the TNS Revenant. 3 months ago, you declared this war over. You were wrong. To every human still alive, hold on. The fight isn't finished." The resistance fighters exchanged stunned glances. Cole felt something stir in his chest. Something he hadn't felt since the Dominion crushed Earth's defenses. Hope. Above, in orbit, the Dominion fleet scrambled into formation, weapons locking onto the approaching warship. On board the Revenant, Captain Kane stood on the bridge, watching the enemy reposition. He exhaled slowly, his fingers tightening into a fist. "All right," he murmured. "Let's show these bastards why they should have wiped us out completely." The last human warship had returned, and it was bringing hell with it. The Dominion fleet wasted no time. A dozen Varak warships shifted into an attack formation, their sleek obsidian-colored hulls bristling with plasma cannons. The harbinger of Dominion, their flagship, loomed at the center like a monstrous beast, its reinforced armor glowing under the distant light of the sun. They expected this to be easy. After all, humanity's best had already fallen. They had no idea what they were dealing with. On board the Revenant, Captain Darius Kane stood firm on the bridge, his gaze locked onto the enemy formation. The Dominion thought they were fighting the same humans they had crushed months ago. They were wrong. The Revenant had been built for a war humanity never got to fight. A classified superweapon meant to counter far worse threats than the Varak. It had spent 30 years in the dark, perfecting its systems, evolving its technology, and adapting in ways no one could anticipate. And now it was awake. "Commander Vasquez status?" Kane asked. A woman with short, dark hair and cybernetic implants across her temple responded instantly. "Weapons online. Shields at full capacity. They've locked onto us, but they're hesitating. I don't think they believe we're real." Kane smirked. "Let's correct that mistake." He turned toward Tactical. "Fire the Gauss lances. Let's wake them up properly." The Revenant didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead of slow-charging plasma cannons or outdated railguns, it deployed Gauss lances, hyper-accelerated projectiles that moved at near-light speed, capable of tearing through enemy shields before they even had a chance to react. The Dominion fleet never saw them coming. The first lance struck a Varak battleship dead center, bypassing its energy barriers and ripping straight through its hull. The ship didn't explode. It simply broke apart, its core venting into the void as fire consumed its compartments. The second lance obliterated a cruiser in an instant, vaporizing its bridge before its crew could even scream. The Dominion fleet erupted into chaos. "They just one-shot our warships." An officer on the Harbinger of Dominion howled in disbelief. Jorvus slammed his clawed fist into the console. "Return fire! Everything we have!" Their plasma cannons and torpedoes lit up the void, streaking toward the Revenant in a storm of energy. The Terran warship didn't even try to dodge. Instead, its hull shimmered, an adaptive shield system flickering to life. The incoming projectiles bent away at the last second, redirected harmlessly into open space. The few that connected were simply absorbed, the ship's hull repairing itself in real time. It was impossible. The Revenant was absorbing their attacks. Jorvus felt something he had never experienced in his lifetime of conquest. Fear. Cole Mathis and his fighters huddled around their stolen comm unit, listening to the unthinkable unfold above them. They had seen Dominion warships shrug off entire human fleets without breaking a sweat. They had watched Earth's best and brightest burn in vain. And now, one single Terran warship was tearing the Dominion apart like a god of vengeance. One of the younger fighters, a woman barely in her 20s, gripped Cole's arm. "Sir, what the hell kind of ship is that?" Cole swallowed hard. "Our last chance." The Dominion had spent the past 3 months breaking them, making them believe resistance was futile. But now, as explosions bloomed in the skies above, they knew the war wasn't over. Humanity was still in the fight, and this time, they weren't going to lose. The Dominion fleet was breaking. The Revenant moved through the battlefield like a phantom, its engines humming with raw energy as it ripped through enemy formations with mechanical precision. Every shot it fired was a death sentence. Gauss lances and kinetic slugs shattered warships before they had a chance to react. The once mighty Dominion, the conquerors of Earth, were now scrambling to survive. On the bridge of the Harbinger of Dominion, Commander Jorvis bared his fangs in fury. "This is impossible," he roared, his claws digging into the console. One ship is doing this?" His second-in-command was pale. "Commander, we need to retreat." Jorvis turned on him with a look of pure disgust. "Retreat? We have conquered 100 worlds. Humanity's fleets burned in front of us, their armies begging for mercy. And now you!" Before he could finish, another explosion rocked the command ship. A Dominion destroyer, one of their heaviest warships, was torn in half by a concentrated barrage from the Revenant. The wreckage tumbled through space, colliding with another cruiser, sending both into a fiery spiral toward Earth's upper atmosphere. The bridge fell silent. For the first time, the Varak weren't the predators. They were the prey. Captain Darius Kane watched as the enemy fleet faltered. His grip on the command railing tightened. "Commander Vasquez," he said, his voice calm. "Status report." Vasquez glanced at the tactical display. 7 enemy warships destroyed. 4 are disabled. The flagship is still operational, but... She smirked. "They're hesitating, sir." Kane exhaled. "Good. Let them be afraid." For 3 months, humanity had been hunted, humiliated, and enslaved. The Dominion had assumed they had won, that humans were just another species to be conquered and forgotten. But humans had never forgotten. They had never surrendered. And now, the last warship of the Terran Navy was here to remind the Dominion why that was their biggest mistake. "Prepare the main cannon," Kane ordered. The bridge crew hesitated. "The main cannon?" Vasquez turned to him, eyes widening. "Sir, the cannon hasn't been tested since—" "I know." Kane's expression was stone cold. "But we're outnumbered, and I want to make a statement." She hesitated, then nodded. "Aye, Captain. Charging the Oblivion Lance." Planetary Governor Lurvek had spent the past 3 months enjoying his victory. The conquest of Earth had been swift, the humans had been easily broken, and their resistance had crumbled within weeks. Or so he had thought. Now, as he stared at the massive holographic display in his war room, terror gripped his twin hearts. His fleet, was being systematically obliterated. What is that ship?" he croaked. "Where did it come from?" His advisors had no answers. They were just as stunned as he was. A deep, ominous alarm suddenly blared through the command center. One of his lieutenants, a younger Varak, turned pale as she read the data scrolling across the screens. "Governor, the Terran warship is charging a superweapon." Lurvek's blood ran cold. "A superweapon?" "Yes, sir, and—" She swallowed hard. "It's aiming at us." The realization hit him like a physical blow. The war wasn't just turning. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were out for blood. The Oblivion Lance was a weapon never meant to exist. Designed in the final, desperate years before the war, it had been conceived as humanity's last resort, a weapon capable of reducing entire fleets to ash. But before it could be used, the war had ended in disaster. Until now. The Dominion's command ship loomed in the distance, its shields flickering. It was the largest and most heavily armored warship in the fleet. It wouldn't matter. "Firing sequence engaged," Vasquez confirmed. 5 seconds to discharge. Kane leaned forward. "Let's finish this." The bridge lights dimmed. The ship hummed with unnatural energy as the weapon powered up. A glowing rift of pure destruction began to form at the Revenant's bow. The countdown hit 0, and then The sky burned. A single beam of pure annihilation erupted from the Revenant, cutting across space with terrifying speed. It struck the Harbinger of Dominion dead center, piercing its shields like they weren't even there. For a brief second, there was silence. Then, the entire ship detonated. Not just a normal explosion. The Harbinger came apart at a molecular level, its structure disintegrating in a blinding inferno of energy. The shockwave ripped through the remaining Dominion ships, sending them spinning out of formation. Half of them were immediately disabled by the sheer force. The others began fleeing, their commanders too terrified to stay and fight. The great Varak fleet, the one that had conquered Earth, was in full retreat. In the ruins of old New York, Cole Mathis and his fighters watched the sky in awe. The Harbinger of Dominion, the symbol of their oppressors, was gone. The fleet that had once crushed Earth's defenders was now running for its life. Cole's radio crackled. "Resistance forces, this is Captain Darius Kane of the Terran Navy. The enemy is in retreat. If you're still breathing down there..." He took a breath, then said the words that would ignite a planet-wide uprising. "It's time to take our world back." The resistance fighters erupted into cheers. Hope had returned to Earth, and this time, humanity wouldn't be defeated. The Dominion occupation forces were in chaos. For months, they had ruled Earth with an iron grip, confident that humanity was broken, that no resistance could ever rise again. Their patrols had marched through shattered cities unopposed. Their commanders had grown complacent, and their soldiers had treated Earth as nothing more than a conquered prize. Now, the sky itself had turned against them. The Revenant's obliteration of the Dominion flagship was more than just a victory. It was a declaration. It told every human left alive that the war wasn't over. It told the occupiers that their time was up. And now, for the first time since Earth's fall, the resistance was ready to fight. Cole Mathis stood at the center of a repurposed Dominion war room, staring at a holographic map of Earth. Red markers blinked across the display, each one representing an enemy stronghold, fortresses, labor camps, supply depots, and command centers. For months, his people had fought small, isolated battles, struggling just to survive. But now, with the Dominion fleet in full retreat, their planetary forces were cut off. For the first time, humanity had the upper hand. The radio crackled. "This is Captain Kane. The sky is ours. How soon can you launch a ground offensive?" Cole exhaled. "We've been waiting for this moment for months." He turned to his fighters, battle-hardened survivors who had lost everything to the Dominion, men and women who had nothing left to lose. "This is it," he told them. "No more hiding. No more running. We hit them everywhere at once. We take back our cities, free our people, and make them regret ever setting foot on Earth." A roar of agreement shook the bunker. The resistance was no longer in the shadows. The war for Earth had begun. Governor Lurvek's hands trembled as he stared at the battlefield reports. His entire orbital fleet was either destroyed or retreating. The Harbinger of Dominion, the most feared warship in the sector, was gone. And now, human cities were rising in rebellion. "This isn't possible," he whispered. "We broke them. We won. The doors to his command center burst open, and a squad of his personal guards stumbled inside. One of them, bloodied and panting, managed to choke out a single terrifying sentence. "The humans! They're inside the compound." A gunshot rang out. The guard collapsed. And behind him, stepping over the body, was a human woman with dark tactical gear and a rifle still smoking from the shot. Sarah Connors, second in command of the European resistance, smiled coldly. "We're here to discuss your surrender, Governor." Lurvek stumbled back. You can't." Sarah's expression darkened. "Actually, we can." Outside, the sounds of battle grew louder. Earth was no longer theirs. The Dominion was falling. Everywhere, the same story played out. In Paris, resistance forces stormed a Varak command center, using stolen alien weapons to cut through the occupiers. In Tokyo, civilians armed with homemade explosives ambushed Dominion patrols, turning the city's underground tunnels into death traps. In Rio, a former Terran Marine battalion, thought to be wiped out, resurfaced, slaughtering an entire enemy garrison in one night. And in New York, as Cole Mathis led his forces toward the last remaining Dominion stronghold, he received a final transmission from orbit. "Resistance forces, this is Captain Kane. We're deploying reinforcements." Cole's eyes widened. "Reinforcements? We don't have—" Then, the sky split open. From the Revenant's underbelly, dropships rained down, each one packed with battle-ready soldiers in sleek, advanced armor, not resistance fighters, but trained Terran Marines. "Impossible," Cole whispered. "The military was wiped out. Vasquez's voice cut in. "Not all of it." As the first dropship landed, its hatch hissed open, revealing a squad of veteran Terran soldiers armed with weaponry Cole had never seen before. At their head, a tall, battle-worn officer stepped forward, her face grim but determined. "Major Evelyn Carter," she introduced herself. "Terran Special Forces. Thought you could use some backup?" Cole grinned. Now, they had an army. The streets of New York became a war zone. Dominion troops, realizing they were alone, dug in, turning skyscrapers into defensive positions and deploying their last armored units. Plasma fire rained down as human forces pushed forward, their stolen weapons ripping through enemy lines. The Varak fought viciously, but they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. And as the battle raged, Cole found himself face to face with the last Dominion commander in the city, a towering, scarred Varak warlord named General Korvac. "You think this changes anything, human?" Korvac snarled, leveling his plasma blade. "Your species is weak. You are nothing but—" Cole raised his stolen Dominion rifle and shot him in the face. The general collapsed, dead before he hit the ground. Cole stepped over the body. "You talk too much." Moments later, the last Dominion stronghold fell, and with it, Earth was free. Captain Kane watched the final battle from orbit, his expression unreadable. The planet was theirs again, but his mission wasn't over. "Sir," Vasquez said, stepping up beside him, "survivors from the Dominion fleet are making a run for deep space. Should we let them go?" Kane's jaw tightened. The Dominion had come to Earth expecting easy prey. They had razed cities, enslaved billions, and erased entire bloodlines without a second thought. Now they wanted to flee, not a chance. Kane turned to his weapons officer. "Lock onto their ships." "Sir?" He exhaled, his voice ice cold. "I don't want a single one of them leaving this system alive." The Revenant opened fire. One by one, the escaping Dominion vessels were erased from existence. There would be no survivors, no warnings, no second chances. The war had started with Earth burning. It ended with the Dominion burning instead. The Varak Dominion, an empire that had stood for centuries, collapsed overnight. The destruction of their fleets, the loss of Earth, and the utter annihilation of their reinforcements sent a message to every species watching. Humanity wasn't dead. Humanity wasn't weak. And if anyone dared to threaten them again, they would burn for it. The Revenant turned away from Earth, its engines humming as it prepared for its next mission. Captain Kane took one last look at the planet below. They had won, but this war wasn't over yet. It was just the beginning.